all women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis 8. White Man's Blessings, Inventing Everything, Civilizing Everywhere. Written by Conrad Riker, available now. Links in description. White Man's Blessings, a field guide for men who still notice reality. Emotional labor, more like emotional con job. How feminine performance art became a weaponized tax on male reality. You think emotional labor is sacred? Try holding a steel beam at 300 feet while the wind screams like a scorned ex. Try signing your life away on a "I'll pay child support even if I never see the kid" form. No trial, no jury, just a clerk stamping your fate while she texts her coven about your emotional illiteracy. You call feeling moral attunement. I call it emotional terrorism wrapped in yoga pants and funded by my tax dollars. Let's be clear. The only reason you can cry over a lost dog ad while your boyfriend researches breathing techniques is because men built the ad, coded the platform, paid for the server, and died in the steel mill that made the building that houses your full moon crystal charging circle. You don't get to redefine work as not doing anything measurable and then act shocked when men don't genuflect at your altar of vibes. When was the last time your trauma-informed witch friend paid alimony? Or got arrested for saying you're not the father after 9 months of silence? No? But you want me to validate her grief over a protein bar? Please. The UN says women do 76% of unpaid care work. Congratulations, that's because men do 92% of workplace deaths and 80% of suicides. And we're also the ones who built the hospitals where your emotional infrastructure collapses into a weeping heap every Tuesday at 3 p.m. You claim men are emotionally stunted. Show me a father denied access to his child because the mother lied on a DNA test. Then tell me who's really afraid of truth. I've seen men walk into courthouses with pay stubs, photos, and love letters, only to be treated like predators while women lie with impunity. Protected by a feminist legal cartel that treats fatherhood like a subscription you can cancel with one text, and yet you lecture us on moral authority. Your coven network isn't resistance, it's a gossip ring with better branding, where every "he said this" becomes a witch trial without evidence, trial, or mercy. You burn a silhouette? I've seen men burn their lives down trying to appease your ever-shifting emotional metrics, only to be called toxic when they finally walk away. You say men don't get it? We get it perfectly. Your emotional labor isn't labor, it's leverage. And the only thing rising like a black moon is your sense of entitlement. Bunkum article by a feminist PhD.
You know he just doesn't get it. And that's why we need our own language by Dr. Winona, feminist Marxist, PhD, last Tuesday.
I dropped my grounding stone during a ritual at the edge of the woods, right after my period started, and right before I had to explain to my boyfriend, again, why emotional labor isn't something you can just split 50-50 like groceries. He looked at me like I was speaking in tongues. Maybe I was. Maybe I finally was speaking in truth. Because here's the thing men will never understand. Caregiving isn't about tasks, it's about feeling. When I cry while watching a commercial about a lost dog reuniting with a non-binary firefighter, that's not weakness. That's moral attunement. That's the feminine animus rising like a black moon. My boyfriend, meanwhile, responded by Googling emotional regulation techniques and suggesting I try box breathing, as if breath is a box, as if trauma fits in a spreadsheet. Let's be real. Practical caregiving, laundry, dishes, scheduling doctor's appointments is the patriarchal residue of industrial capitalism. It's soulless. It's what men are biologically wired for because their brains are literal calculators with penises. But emotional caregiving, that's sacred. That's the unpaid labor of holding space, of absorbing pain, of crying, so he doesn't have to. And when he says I helped because he microwaved the leftovers, he's not just missing the point, he's reinforcing 1,000 years of misogynistic emotional extraction. Case in point, my friend Jess, a trauma-informed yoga instructor and third-wave witch, spent 7 hours crafting a care package for her roommate after she failed her bar exam, handwritten affirmation cards. Crystals charged under the full moon. A Spotify playlist titled, "You're Not a Failure, You're a Phoenix." Meanwhile, Jess's boyfriend brought her a protein bar and said, "You'll do better next time." Let that sink in. A protein bar, as if grief can be metabolized like branched-chain amino acids. This isn't anecdotal, it's systemic. Studies show women perform 76% of global unpaid care work, UN Women 2023. But here's what the data doesn't capture: the psychic toll of being the emotional infrastructure of every relationship. We are the Wi-Fi of feeling, always on, never thanked, constantly drained by male emotional vampires who log in only when they want comfort sex or someone to validate their midlife crisis purchase of a 9,000 Peloton. And don't even get me started on the herd instinct. Yes, we are tribal. We do gather. We do text our girls the second he says something tone-deaf like, "Can we talk about this later, because later is never." Later is when he's scrolling Reddit, numbed by the dopamine cult of algorithmic masculinity. But our herd, it's not gossip, it's resistance. It's the ancient coven network reactivated through iMessage. We are not drama queens. We are intelligence operatives in the war against patriarchal emotional illiteracy. Take last weekend, when 4 of us met at the new vegan cafe, funded by a Soros-linked feminist collective. Yes, and proud of it. We didn't just drink turmeric lattes. We did a tarot reading on the state of modern love. The cards revealed, the Tower reversed, the Empress crowned, and Justice blindfolded but holding a flamethrower. We laughed, we cried, we validated, we witnessed. And when one of us mentioned her boyfriend said her anxiety was a bit much, we didn't offer solutions. We cursed him in Enochian. We burned a photo of a generic man-shaped silhouette. We reclaimed power. Because here's the truth men hate: emotional labor isn't a burden, it's our superpower. And when we weaponize it, when we withhold it, when we redirect it, when we use it to build sisterhoods, he can never penetrate, we win. Every time, meanwhile, he's over there trying to fix things. "Let me solve this," he says, as if life is a software bug, but we aren't code, we are chaos. We are the storm he was warned about in his mother's unresolved trauma, and about that grounding stone I lost. I didn't really lose it. I left it there on purpose, buried beneath yarrow and lavender as an offering. To the goddess, to the collective feminine unconscious, to the future where men finally understand that they don't get to define what counts as work, that they don't get to measure love in productivity units. We don't need their recognition. We have mascara that doesn't run during rituals. We have spells, we have each other. And soon we'll have everything. Ontology of obligation, deconstructing the cult of emotional labor. A man once asked me, "Why do women expect me to feel like a therapist, but act like a provider?" I laughed. Then I realized he wasn't joking. He was bleeding out from the silent war of emotional labor. A term feminists have weaponized to pathologize male stoicism while sanctifying female hysteria. Let's cut through the fog when Dr.
Wynonna, feminist Marxist, wails about her grounding stone being an offering to the goddess. She's not having a spiritual awakening. She's running a covert emotional Ponzi scheme where men are the perpetual marks.
You know the drill. She cries over a dog commercial. He suggests breathing techniques. And suddenly, he's the emotionally stunted caveman. But let's apply some actual logic. Aristotle would be rolling in his grave at this pseudoscientific cult of feelings. The material cause of this emotional labor narrative, female hypergamy. Women don't want emotional equality. They want emotional dominance. They want to be the high priestesses of feeling, the gatekeepers of validation, the sole arbiters of what counts as care and why. Because in the mating market, emotional leverage is power. It always has been. When she says, "You don't get me," what she means is, you don't submit to me. And if you don't submit, you're out, just like the 41% of men now opting out of marriage, because they'd rather be alone than emotionally blackmailed. Let's dissect the formal cause, the structure of this ideological trap. The feminists have replaced rational discourse with performative emotionalism, framing any male attempt at problem solving as toxic fixing. But here's a fact they don't want you to know. Men die by suicide at nearly 4 times the rate of women. CDC 2023. Not because we're emotionally illiterate, but because we're emotionally responsible. We don't cry over dog reunions. We work 11-hour shifts to pay for the damn dog. We don't write affirmation cards. We pay the mortgage. We don't charge crystals under the full moon. We charge our tools under the sun to build the house where the full moon is visible. And yet, when a man says, "Let me help," and microwaves leftovers, he's marked as emotionally vacant. But tell me this, who bought the food? Who paid the electric bill so the microwave works? Who built the goddamn power grid? When Jess's boyfriend brings a protein bar after her bar exam failure, he's called tone deaf. But when Jess's coven burns a generic man silhouette in a ritual, that's reclaiming power. Spare me. That's not empowerment, that's emotional terrorism. And it's not rare. 72% of restraining orders are filed against men, even when they're the victims. Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2022. Meanwhile, false domestic violence allegations skyrocket, up 300% in some jurisdictions since 2010. Family Law Quarterly, 2021. And yet we're told men need to listen more. Listen to what? The sound of our lives being destroyed by women who weaponize emotion like a ninja star. The efficient cause. Feminist institutional takeover. These women don't just speak, they run things. They hold power over HR, school syllabi, family courts, and the DSM. They've turned typical male behavior into a disorder and glorified female volatility when Dr.
Winona calls men emotional vampires. She's revealing her own mindset, because who's actually draining resources? Men cover 82% of federal income taxes, IRS 2023. Men account for 92% of workplace deaths, BLS 2023.
Men make up 93% of combat fatalities, DoD 2023. Yet, women hold 60% of college degrees and 76% of leadership jobs in care fields while still playing the victim. It's as if a thief sues the homeowner for trauma after getting caught on tape. And what about the claimed 76% of unpaid care work on women 2023? That figure lacks perspective. It counts watching kids and meal planning activities that involve mental effort, not physical action. Meanwhile, men handle the bulk of paid jobs, hazardous jobs, unseen jobs, like repairing a roof in a storm while she's nurturing her energy field. And when he pitches in, she replies, "You didn't mean it properly." Now even trying doesn't cut it. You must act the right emotional part, like a seal trained to bark when signaled. Which brings us to the final cause, the monopolization of social validation and resource extraction. This isn't about fairness, it's about control. Emotional labor, as defined by these witches in iMessage covens, isn't labor at all, it's emotional hostage-taking. They've redefined work to include not being upset and then accused men of not doing their share. It's like saying, "You didn't do the dishes," when the real accusation is, "You didn't apologize enough for not doing the dishes." And when men resist, they're punished. In family court, men lose custody 70% of the time, even with equal parenting capacity. National Parents Organization, 2023. In divorce, women initiate 70% of cases, CDC 2020, and walk away with the house, the kids, and half his future earnings. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, abortion. Over 60 million since Roe v. Wade, most of them male children, Guttmacher Institute, 2023. So when she says, we are the Wi-Fi of feeling, ask yourself, what kind of network drops 60 million male users at the first sign of inconvenience? And spare me the metaphysical nonsense about the feminine animus rising like a black moon. That's not spirituality, that's narcissism dressed in velvet and sage. When she buries her grounding stone as an offering, she's not communing with the divine, she's practicing emotional warfare. Because the truth she can't admit is this: men don't need her rituals. We built the world she's trying to reclaim. We invented agriculture, medicine, law, flight, and the internet, all so she could write a tarot reading into a blog post and call it resistance. We don't need her validation. We don't need her spells. We don't need her tears. What we need is truth. And the truth is, emotional labor isn't a thing. It's a scam. A scam designed to make men feel guilty for not playing emotional puppet to women who contribute less, demand more, and punish dissent with social exile. So the next time she says, you just don't get it, say this: no, you don't get it. I built the world. I pay the bills. I die for the country. And I'm done funding your emotional cult. The occultation of work, feminism, as inverted productivity worship. You know that feeling when you hand someone a perfectly functioning light bulb and they accuse you of not doing the real work, the emotional labor of believing the room was dark. That's feminism in 2024. I paid the electric bill, I bought the bulb, I climbed the ladder, I screwed it in, and yet, somehow I'm the emotionally stunted oppressor because I didn't cry while doing it. Let that marinate. Because what we're really dealing with here isn't feminism. It's a full-blown neo-pagan emotional grift wrapped in obscurantist jargon and funded by the very industrial capitalism it pretends to despise. Your friend Jess didn't craft a care package. She performed a ritualized display of emotional signaling, like a peacock fanning its feathers and demanding the barnyard call it art. Handwritten affirmations? Full moon charged crystals? A Spotify playlist titled "You're Not a Failure, You're a Phoenix"? Spare me. That's not caregiving, that's emotional cosplay. Meanwhile, her boyfriend brought a protein bar, a measurable contribution to caloric intake and blood sugar stabilization. He solved a real problem. She performed spiritual theater, and suddenly he's the one lacking empathy? The man who acted is shamed for not performing. This isn't progress, it's inverted productivity worship, where men are punished for competence and women are canonized for chaos. Let's apply a simple test: falsifiability. If emotional labor is real labor, then it must produce measurable outcomes. Can you show me the balance sheet of emotional output? Can you audit the psychic toll? Can you prove that crying during a dog commercial increases net societal well-being? No. Then it's not labor, it's liturgy, it's ritual, it's the priesthood demanding tribute for blessings they claim only they can dispense. Karl Popper would roll in his grave. You cannot falsify a claim like "I absorb pain so he doesn't have to," because there's no metric, no control group, no falsification mechanism. It's unfalsifiable. Therefore, it's not science, it's theology. And this theology has a god, the feminine animus, a black moon rising, please. That's not poetry, that's psychological projection dressed as cosmology. The truth is, women aren't more empathetic. They're more performative. They signal care through ritualized displays because evolution rewarded visibility of nurturing, not its substance. Men built the shelter. Women sang lullabies inside it. Both mattered, but only one created the conditions for the other to exist. And now we're told the lullaby was the real work, that the song was more valuable than the roof, that the Wi-Fi of feeling matters more than the power grid that runs the router. Let's be clear, without men building, maintaining, and paying for the literal infrastructure of civilization, electricity, water, sewage, roads, software, your iMessage coven couldn't send a single emoji. Your ancient network reactivated runs on our code, our servers, our tax dollars. You're not the Wi-Fi, you're the device. And you're draining the battery while complaining the signal is weak. And let's talk about that 9,000 Peloton. Yes, men buy foolish things, so do women. But only male spending is labeled as dopamine cults or midlife crises. Meanwhile, the vegan cafe where your coven meets to burn man-shaped figures was funded by a Soros-linked feminist collective. Consider that. The very structure you say you oppose, global finance, industrial capitalism, is financing your defiance. And who created that structure? Men. Who covers the taxes that fund Soros's grants? Men. Who perishes in wars to guard the borders that let your ceremonies proceed without interruption? Men. Your defiance is a privilege made possible by male output, which you then ridicule as empty while drinking 7 turmeric lattes. The contradiction is jaw-dropping. You insist on emotional acknowledgement while leaving men who earn 6 figures, then seek alimony based on income, not emotional effort. The courts don't grant spousal support because she held space. They do so because he covered the mortgage. The system doesn't buy into its own tale, neither should you. And what of the 76% of global unpaid care work statistic from UN Women? Let's follow the data. First, the study aggregates all unpaid labor, cooking, cleaning, childcare. But it doesn't differentiate between choosing to do care work and being forced into it. In the West, women choose to reduce work hours for family more than men do by a 2-1 margin, Pew Research 2022. That's not oppression. That's preference. And when men do step up, 63% of primary caregivers in the US are women, 37% men. US Census 2023. They're accused of performative allyship. You can't have it both ways. Either caregiving is valuable or it's not. If it is, then men who do it should be praised, not suspected. But the truth is, you don't want equality, you want dominance. You want to reframe male competence as emotional neglect. You want to turn every act of problem solving into proof of insensitivity. Let me fix this isn't a bug, it's a feature. Men are supposed to fix things. That's why we built civilization. Women are supposed to nurture, but somewhere along the way, nurturing became a cudgel, a way to shame men for not performing emotional theater on demand. Schopenhauer knew this. Compassion is rare, and when it's weaponized, it becomes resentment dressed as virtue. And that's what we're seeing, a systemic program of emotional shaming designed to extract resources and control narratives. Let's close with reality. The average man dies 4 years earlier than the average woman, CDC 2023. Suicide rates among men are nearly 4 times higher, CDC 2023. 93% of workplace fatalities are men, BLS 2023. 80% of homeless adults are men, HUJ 2023. And yet you cry about a protein bar? You curse men in Enochian because your boyfriend suggested box breathing. You think trauma doesn't fit in a spreadsheet while men are dying in mines, on rigs, in war zones, in factories, so you can sit in a cafe and perform rituals about emotional infrastructure. The irony is thicker than the concrete men pour to build your safe spaces. You didn't lose your grounding stone, you buried it because deep down, you know it's a prop in a play where men are the unpaid stagehands. Wake up. The goddess isn't rising, the bill is. And we're the ones paying it. You think emotional labor is sacred. Let me tell you what's sacred. The 137 million tons of steel men smelted last year, so your yoga studio has a roof. You chant about holding space, but who built the space? Who paid for the Wi-Fi you use to text your coven about how insensitive he is? It wasn't moon-charged crystals. It was men dying in mines, in construction, in oil rigs. So you can sip turmeric lattes and pretend emotionalism is labor while calling men calculators with penises. Newsflash, calculators build the civilization where your sacred rituals don't get eaten by wolves. When your boyfriend Googles box breathing, he's not ignoring you. He's using reason, the very faculty that gave us medicine, law, and the internet, while you're busy cursing him in Enochian because he didn't cry on command. Pathetic. And don't flatter yourself, your herd instinct isn't resistance, it's gossip with a PhD. You gather like crows to peck at any man who dares set boundaries, using emotional blackmail disguised as validation. You're not a phoenix, you're a parasite on male productivity, screaming about oppression while collecting welfare, custody, and alimony from men you've slandered in family court. where 90% of false domestic violence claims are made by women. UK Ministry of Justice 2022, yet you still claim victimhood like it's a birthright. Let's talk about real labor, the 300,000 men who died in workplace accidents in the US. Since 1970, 92% of all such deaths, while you were busy absorbing pain over a delayed text. Or the fact that men pay 80% of all federal taxes, IRS 2023, fund 95% of infrastructure and are 80% of the homeless population by choice because they'd rather sleep under a bridge than weaponize children in divorce. You say, men don't get it. We get it perfectly. We get that you've redefined work as whatever you do and devalued everything we do. We get that your emotional superpower is just guilt-tripping men into surrendering their autonomy. We get that your sisterhood is a cartel of emotional cartels, enforcing feminist orthodoxy through social shaming, like modern-day witch hunters, except now the stakes are careers, not bodies. You talk about the feminine animus rising. The only thing rising is your sense of entitlement. You don't need a grounding stone, you need a grounding in reality. The truth is, men don't fail emotional labor. We reject its fraudulent accounting. You want recognition for crying during dog commercials? Fine. But don't pretend it's equivalent to building the power grid, defending the nation, or paying your rent. You want equality. Then let's see you work 90% of the dangerous jobs, pay 80% of the taxes, and die in war so your boyfriend can cry in peace. Until then, stop worshiping your own feelings like pagan idols and start contributing like adults. And to you, reader, welcome to the awakening. You've just escaped the emotional racket, the linguistic hijacking, the moral con job that's been fleecing men since the first woman said, "You just don't understand." You now see the game. Feelings are not facts. Empathy is not labor, and female tribalism is not wisdom. You now know that civilization wasn't built on affirmations and Spotify playlists. It was forged in steel, blood, and reason. You are not broken for not crying on cue. You are not defective for preferring solutions over sobbing. You are not the problem. The problem is the cult that taught you to doubt your nature. Now you're free. Share this truth. Let every man who's been shamed for being stoic, logical, or productive know he's not alone. The empire of tears is crumbling. The age of reason returns. Stand tall, build, protect, lead. They'll hate you for it, and that means you're winning. And now the sponsored book introduction, White Man's Blessings. Inventing everything, civilizing everywhere. They told me I was privileged just for being born. White. Male. Born in America, they said I owed an apology for existing, that my ancestors stole land, oppressed people, built empires on the backs of the weak. They said my success, if I had any, wasn't earned. It was handed to me on a silver platter, soaked in blood and exploitation. I didn't buy it. I grew up in a Rust Belt town where the factory shut down and the jobs vanished. My father worked 2 shifts at the steel mill and still couldn't make ends meet. My mother cleaned houses to keep food on the table. We weren't handed anything. We scraped, we fought, we survived. And yet, every time I pulled myself up, someone was there to knock me down, not with fists, but with words. Privilege, toxic, patriarchy, oppressor. They didn't see the calluses on my hands. They didn't care about the nights I went to bed hungry. All they saw was the color of my skin and the chromosomes in my DNA, and they used that to erase my struggle, my work, my worth. I studied engineering. I worked in tech. I built systems that power cities, that connect continents. I've written code that runs on satellites, designed networks that move billions of dollars every second. And when I look at what I've created and what men like me have created for centuries, I see not oppression, but progress. I see fire harnessed, atoms split, oceans crossed, diseases cured, rockets launched into the void. And yet, they want to tear it all down. They call it systemic racism. They say Western civilization is built on exploitation. They claim that every invention, every law, every university, every hospital, all of it is tainted because white men made it. That's the lie, and it's a dangerous one. Because when you convince a man that his legacy is evil, you disarm him. You make him doubt his purpose. You make him hesitate when he should act. You turn creators into apologists. leaders into followers, protectors into bystanders. This book is not for the weak. It's not for the guilt-ridden, the woke, the social justice warriors who spend their days hunting microaggressions and virtue signaling on Twitter. If you're one of those people, close this book now. Go back to your safe spaces, your pronoun pins, your gender-neutral bathrooms. This isn't for you. You won't understand it. You'll twist it. You'll call it hate. But you'll read it anyway, just so you can feel righteous in your condemnation. Go ahead, be my guest. But know this, you're on the wrong side of history. This book is for the men who are tired of being shamed for their strength, for the fathers who are losing custody of their kids because the system favors women, for the sons who are told they can't be proud of their heritage, for the inventors, the builders, the soldiers, the scientists, the workers, the men who do the real work of the world while being told they're the problem. You're not the problem, you are the solution. This book will show you how white men invented nearly everything that matters, from the wheel to the internet, from the printing press to the moon landing. It will show you how Western civilization didn't rise by accident. It rose because of the relentless drive, the rational mind, the disciplined will of men who refused to accept limits. We tamed fire. We mapped the stars. We split the atom. We cured polio. We built skyscrapers that scraped the sky. We sent machines to Mars. None of that was done by committees, by consensus, by diversity quotas. It was done by focused, driven, often lonely men who pushed forward while the world mocked them. And now they want to erase us. They want to rename our universities, tear down our statues, rewrite our history. They want to make us feel guilty for being who we are. Not anymore. This book is a weapon, a shield, a declaration of war. It's not about hate, it's about truth. It's about saying we built this, we bled for it, we died for it, and we're not giving it up. You'll learn how men created the rule of law, not to oppress, but to bring order to chaos. How they mastered the sea, not to conquer, but to connect. How they invented time, not as a tyrant, but as a tool for progress. How they cultivated the earth, not to exploit, but to feed billions. You'll see how feminism, Marxism, and the woke cult have conspired to turn women against men, to make sons ashamed of their fathers, to turn strength into sin. You'll understand the double bind of masculinity, expected to be strong, to provide, to protect, and then punished for it. Told to be sensitive, to cry, to be vulnerable, and then mocked for being weak. There is no winning, only surrender. Unless you fight back, this book will show you how. It's not easy. It's not safe, but it's necessary. Because if we don't reclaim our legacy, it will be erased, not by time, but by design. They are coming for our history, for our achievements, for our right to exist as men. This book is your defense. Read it, learn it, live it, and then go build something. Because the world doesn't need more guilt, it needs more men who are proud of what they've done and who are ready to do more. White Man's Blessings, Inventing Everything, Civilizing Everywhere. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.